when we go to margin analysis, because yield is only one thing, isn't it? I got 7 tonne, 8 tonne a hectare. Great. How much money did you make? And this is Andrew's point about costings. If you can't actually work that figure out, we need to get closer to that. So this is, and thanks to Colin and the team, this is the margin analysis. So we took the grain price for Laureate. You can see there at 165 distilling, we've got 267, 262 at the local brewing, etc. at 185 nitrogen. There are the basis of the sales of the crop. And the screenings, 1 point deduction, you can see there over a 2.5. Andrew has also kindly supplied us with his actual machinery costings that we've been able to compare with Mix and other manufacturers or other people providing information on running costs of drills, etc. I would have to say this has been a very challenging area to try and get accurate costs of some of these things. Is totally frustrating, because actually if I'm changing a drill unit and it's got less metal parts and I'm pulling it, it pulls easier, what is the difference then? And it's been really difficult to find this out. But we've got essentially there the costs of low disturbance lead, and the Simba Solo here is at the bottom. That's 86 quid for those who can't see it at the back. This information will be available to you afterwards. The cover crops here, that's part of that other field that I'll come to in a minute. So you put all that together, we've then got the seed costs, the ag chem costs, the total yields, etc., price of selling the grain, and we've got some big swings in terms of differences, 1,400 quid there down to 700 there. We've got some big changes over that field in terms of margin achieved. And that's of course without putting fixed costs on top. But that's the analysis that we came to. Just a comparison, and I'll go back now. On the bottom here is going to come up two figures. 1164, which is what Andrew used, so that 22 acre that's been into 8 years of cover crop achieved 1164. Well, actually, that compares or competes, Andrew, I'll just make the point, with some of these poorer zones in this field. So I'm not far off, but when I put your 22 acre Squires field up here, it says 1714. Yes, you beat me this year. Watch this. Okay? Now, interesting. Yeah, okay, there's the margins achieved. There's another column come up over here. And this is slightly concerning, because when you put grain prices at a different level, 140 or 180, compared to our 260s over here, we start to get a few more red zones. So it's actually showing the attention to detail. Some of these areas actually didn't make much money here. And it gets worse than that when you start to have fixed costs. And again, we thank Andrew for being totally open with this. We put fixed costs in at 460 quid a hectare. And when you start to do that, I don't want to depress people. I put a lot of red numbers over here now. Because trying to take on board those fixed costs with this situation that we're in, there really is, if you look at that Simba free flow, you can see why Andrew's still got it on board. Because when we come down to pounds, shillings and pence per hectare, there is only really one unit at 140 that is producing the goods on that field. So we know the system is sound. What we've got to do is find new technology that gets up to that same performance. And that's really what we're trying to do, I think, Andrew, on the day.
Yeah, definitely.
We're trying to see, is there something that we're missing? Do we need to be utilising some of this brilliant engineering that we've got out there? But I think still yet we're still just struggling as to how to use it, how to set that soil up so we can actually use it. So yield's important, of course, it's one of the big drivers. Philip's going to talk about the root system and other things coming up. But in summary, the margin range between 721 and 1400, we're £684 a hectare. And when people start talking about, I'm going to shave a bit off my fungicides, 20 quid a hectare, there's some huge figures here that we've just, across that field, changed significantly on that day. Important stuff, isn't it? In terms of the cover crop, yeah, I've still got work to do. The 22 acre compared to the field alongside didn't stack up, but we're understanding more, I think, as we move forward. And in terms of what now? Well, Andrew's mentioned his immediate sort of change here along the route has been, okay, let's get that horsepower looked at. Let's get the tractor unit looked at. Do I need to be 600 horsepower? And I would challenge us all perhaps to look at that, because the cost of running these things, Amy will go into it, is considerable. In terms of transitioning down the route as well, less intensive crop establishment, so we are not pulling the solo through every field. We actually now, with a spade, decide what's needed. We've got equipment that can move less soil, will cost us less. We're looking at shallow cultivation for friable surfaces. All of that is part and parcel of what we're trying to do. And I think that's the journey for me so far that's so interesting. And this whole carbon thing I'm most interested in as well. We'll see when we get to Amy's section at the end there. That was a whistle-stop tour, what has been quite an extensive project for us. As I said, we haven't got it all right, but there's some bits in there that I'm interested in terms of we've found out a little bit more. This was spring barley. Winter wheat would have been different. Winter wheat's more elastic. It has more time in the ground. So again, that would have been different to this, but this really challenged us in terms of performance from that crop. And I'm talking about margin, not necessarily yield. Okay, any questions at that point? We have got a roving mic, so you've heard Andrew, you've heard myself so far. Is there any burning questions that anybody? We've got the question and answer section at the end, and Colin's going to run through that. So yeah, we've got one down here. I don't know how this works, Fred. Can you? So we've got a runner. Here comes young Fred with a mic. Okay, so we've got Dave coming with it's his equipment. Dave, can you stop that bloody thing squealing? He assured me it's going to work, but it will work well, won't it? 40 years experience you've been doing this for.
Come on, Dave, do your business.
So over the 8 years,
and sorry, one of the things that is hard on design for what was very different, you know.
okay, over the 8 years we have used various cover crop mixes.
Colin, Steve, just stand in front of the mic, please.
Good idea. Over the 8 years, we've used various cover crops in various locations. It goes back to the point, what are you trying to do? So in Andrew's case, the cover crop there, I am trying to hold soil structure. I'm trying to stop that silt shifting. If I'm totally honest, that's what I'm trying to do. Of course, you could bolt onto that nitrogen fixing, organic matter buildup. They are a side point. My main drive was, can I actually hold that soil structure? Can I take out a cultivation? Was my first point with Andrew. I've not actually managed that because the cover crop establishment often has not been good enough. And this is the challenge. August, September, when we're trying to establish these things and it's gone a bit dry, we know how difficult it is with oilseed rape. It's exactly the same problem here. Trying to establish that cover crop is something we've grappled with. I think we're getting there in terms of our technique. We don't want to bring a lot of cost into it, but I'm just trying to get that cover crop established. And the important point at that point for me is I'm establishing my cover crop, but I also need to set up and ensure that soil structure is right for drilling later, because I'm not going to start and pull that soil around later on. I've got to set it up the day we put the cover crop in, and that's a serious challenge. But things we've used, for instance, our cover crop now, we would have a base mix, I would, Basilia. That's a shallow, fibrous rooting plant, but it gives me that friable drilling zone. That's critical. Basilia, vetch, we've used linseed, nice long root on the linseed there to sort of penetrate through clay particles, etc. So linseed's in there. We've used cereals in the combination as well. That's what we've tried to do. Andrew's picture up on the heath there, the lighter soils, with no problem. We could grow the cover crops up there. They've achieved what we want them to. Sheep grazing them, that's working. But on the heavier soil, it's always this establishment phase. So that's what we've struggled with. And then you've got things like slugs, etc. So where we've had some of the radishes in the mix early doors, in the years, the slug pressure certainly has been very obvious. So that's something else, in terms of the next crop establishment. So it's a whole different story, and I could go on all day, so I'll have to be careful I don't. But certainly the cover crop species were chosen to try to keep that soil up, or indeed improve that soil structure and hold it. That's what we're trying to do. But it's not free. And they've got to perform, they've got to give me some yield, or I've got to take the cultivation out. And we're still at that point in terms of, can I not do the solo bit? Could I do a shallow cultivation, and will my roots then do what I need further down? That's the sort of point I've got to. And that's why I like that challenge, and we'll get there, hopefully. All right, so that's really an answer to that. I guess at this point we ought to move on, Colin. I'm not taking over the chairman job. But
you have. And I'm not at all surprised. Hey, good morning. I can't stand up in a while, but if you can see me. But thank you to Andrew for a stirring start, and to Steve the whole Corbett. Reputation now guaranteed. If you've been to the Stowlonger site, it's more like a lunar landscape now, where he digs so many holes. Anyway, health and safety issues beside, I think we've got to a stage now where actually we should go to coffee break. So nice and easy, half an hour, guys and girls, and we'll be back for part 2. Thank you very much.
So, there we are. You've just seen a bit of a run through Steve's presentation, and we've got Philip Wright as well to come after the coffee break. So keep tuned into this and keep looking, and I will put a live one up. I'll start a bit earlier, this because we missed some of the start of the presentation. I've got it on the video. I'm going to put it on this Sunday's update. So yeah, great morning we're having here. For those of you who can't be here, you can see we've got roughly 250 people here, maybe a few more I think. Great morning, lots of good discussion. I've given a 20-minute intro at the start, which I don't think you'll see that, but intro at the start about our machinery and how we started over the years and how we've evolved and what we've done to change the system and to get where we are today. A lot of interest, and hopefully we'll have some great questions come along. So we'll see you after the coffee break, and I'll do another live one on the next presentation. Thanks for watching.